Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Audible Farm podcast. It's episode number 40, and this week I'm sitting down with Hannah McLimans. Hannah is a beginner guitarist, and I thought it'd be a good idea to bring a beginner on here to, kind of spice things up a little bit and maybe bring people back to their roots on some of the things they struggled with when they first started playing, and maybe reach out and give Hannah some pointers. I don't know. I had a great time sitting down talking with her. We've been bouncing ideas off of each other back and forth over the last handful of weeks as she's been playing guitar, and we had a good conversation. And, after, I guess let's just get to the podcast first, and I'll talk about some more of it afterwards. So this is episode number 40 with beginner guitarist Hannah McLimans.
It's the Audible Farm podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
All right. I'm sitting down today with Hannah McLimans. Is that right? McLimans?
That's right.
All right. McLimans. Not McLemans.
Not McLimans.
McLimans.
Or
McLimans. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I got it. So you and I have actually been discussing playing guitar for the last handful of weeks.
Yes.
And you've been playing for a while, right?
What constitutes a while?
I don't know. Here, let's pull that microphone up
This
to
way?
you. Yeah, point it like into your face, and then then just talk into the bottom of it.
Are you talking to the bottom?
Yeah, talk straight into the bottom, like all the way through it.
How do you direct? No, like that. You gotta direct your voice. I'm too quiet.
Yeah, kinda. Oops. Let me mute that. I'm sorry. All right, so
Your host.
yeah, I'm the host, I guess. Yeah. So, anyways, we're talking. Let's put it this way. I've been a little sick this week, and I'm on cold medicine. So, if this is an odd interview, I apologize. I was more looking for just a conversation with somebody, and you've been playing for a while. How long have you been playing a guitar, or how long have you owned one?
I've owned a guitar probably since my middle school years.
Middle school.
So, yeah.
And how long have you been seriously trying to play the thing?
I picked it up. Shit. Oh God. You can't swear on this, can you?
You could say whatever you want.
All right. Well, I've been playing it since middle school. I actually learned in middle school. One of my teachers, I think, at Humboldt High School, taught the whole 6th grade how to play.
Yeah, I remember something about
that. Yeah, Mr. Miller.
We didn't get to do that, but you guys did.
Out.
So
it
yeah,
was fun. But it's been since then, and then I kind of dropped off the face of the earth there, and then picked it up pretty seriously about 4 months ago.
All right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty green. I'm new.
Yeah. So you
new.
you basically just learned some of the basic chords and stuff when you were younger,
yeah,
and then hadn't really played in a long time.
Yeah.
And
but I would say picking it up though, I'm pretty musically inclined, so relearning all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was a little easier than expected.
Yeah.
To relearn all that, but
did you play? I mean, well, you must have played other instruments if you learned how to play the guitar in bands. So, what other instruments did you play?
I played alto saxophone, tenor saxophone. Played trumpet there for a little while.
That's pretty cool.
Teaching myself piano. I don't know.
So, what did you switch between all these instruments in school, or did you?
Oh, yeah.
You just couldn't stick to one, or what's the deal?
I got bored pretty easily, I think.
Yeah.
I always wanted to learn. I just wanted to learn more shit to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, if you look up on the screen here, this one is your line of audio, and it wiggles when you make noise. And so far,
wiggle.
And so far, yours hasn't wiggled much. So
why?
Because you're not talking into the microphone.
It's because I'm fidgeting too much. You have to scream into the shit.
No, you don't. You just have to talk normal into it. But yeah, this is you. So if you say something, it'll wiggle.
I have to fidget. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I understand it'd be nervous. So the thing about this is you're one of the first non-experienced guitar players that's been on the podcast. And I wanted to bring you on the podcast to kind of talk about some of the first things that you, when you first started learning on your own, kind of struggled with, or the things that places you would go to learn the things you would learn, or what songs you kind of went towards, kind of maybe to draw parallels between your first experiences and mine, or maybe even bring back some fond memories from other people listening.
So I struggled with probably everything. It's hard. Guitar is hard.
It's not as easy as you think it
No,
is.
it's not. And you think you're gonna pick it up and learn the gist of it in like a month? You're
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. So yeah, it was hard. I was talking to you the other day about how my hands are little. It's an excuse, and you're like, no, that's not an excuse.
Yeah, because there's people with big hands that are like, my hands are too big.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, what's the sweet spot then?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And you can't say that your hands are too big because there's people with like ludicrously long banana fingers playing guitar, and they shred the hell out of it. So
they're still so good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Trying not to make excuses for myself. That's a little thing I'm struggling with too.
yeah, that's definitely the thing I've maybe in like everything have always struggled with, because I always like just have like an excuse like loaded in my holster already, just ready to go. Yep. And you learn that that's pretty detrimental, even in just not in just music, but like everything.
And like everything, it's a metaphor for life.
Because you want to just go in there and be like, well, I did pretty good for only sleeping for 4 hours, and you're already just like loading up these excuses or whatever, and it's like, just don't make an excuse. Right. Just go out and do it, I guess. Another thing we were talking about the other day was you had some calluses that you were starting to build up on your fingers. And that's I still remember being a kid and having that be like,
that's right.
I wouldn't say a kid, but I was in my late teens just being like, yeah, my fingers are getting all calloused up.
I was so pumped. I actually sent you a picture of that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, my first callus is there. I'm so proud.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the things I'm most proud of. It was cool to see. Like, I feel like when that happened, I was like a schoolgirl all over again. You know?
Yeah. I remember growing up and just like you get a little bit of a callus, and you and your buddies are just like, oh, look at these calluses I got, and everyone's just comparing calluses like it's talent, you know. But exactly. But still, you're like high fiving each other, like, look at all this time I put in. Oh yeah, high fives, and you know, it is what it is. Those like little victories that you get, because you know your fingers do hurt when you first start playing, and when the calluses come in, they hurt a little less when the calluses come in. You know, because it's a little bit of extra padding or whatever it is. But
and then I figured out that it's easier that way.
What is?
With callus fingers.
Oh, easier to play.
Oh yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
I guess I never really thought too much about it.
I think so. I think when you're trying to push on the strings and you don't have callus fingers, well, it hurts like a bitch. So
yeah, I never think too much about that, because like since I was young, my fingers have always been pretty calloused, and it's not unless I play like, you know, hours and hours, and then I kind of get that pain again. But I never think too much about the calloused fingers thing until when you sent me the picture of your calloused fingers. I was like, well, heck, I just got done playing, so I'll take a picture of mine. And I had played a show at the Humboldt Arts Center, and leading up to that, I'd put so many hours of playing in on electric and acoustic guitars, and just doing anything I could to prep myself for that show. I don't know why I was so nervous, but it was just hours and hours every day of just playing and playing and playing, and I had some ridiculous calluses built up, and since then I haven't played as much as that. So the other day when I played a bunch, I ended up just tearing my calluses up a bunch and
ripped up,
and took a picture of them. I was like, yeah, check this out. I ended up sending them to a couple other people too, like Vince from my Iowa Central buddy that I did a podcast with not too long ago. Yeah, it was just one of those fun things to be like, yep, just shredding it up, but at the same time, like that's kind of showing how your calluses are going away. So it's maybe you need to play a little more.
Play a little bit more. Knock on the head.
Yeah, I probably should play a little bit more, but I don't know. Just being under the weather and stuff lately like hasn't really helped too much. I find myself not like just being really lethargic about picking up the guitar and wanting to play stuff and like make noise and sit next to speakers.
Yeah. I think that's the opposite for me, because I'm playing on an acoustic guitar right now, and like when I get home from work, like that's what I want to do. You know, I want to do that. I don't want to just sit there and do nothing. Yeah. So like all day at work, I miss my guitar. Yeah. You know, people are like, oh, I miss my bed. Such a long distance relationship with my bed, and I'm like, oh, I miss my guitar. Yeah. So you just want to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun when you start to like figure one thing out and then the next thing, and then you realize that you can just kind of learn anything as long as you stick your mind to it and keep going with it, and then it becomes a fun thing because you always have these challenges that are open to you. When I first started playing, it was definitely like that too. I always felt like, man, now that I can play this one song or that other song, I could probably play just about anything, you know? And so you just start looking up all these other songs you think you can play and stuff like that. I mean, I eventually felt like I plateaued and quit playing as much and such, but That's going to be another thing. I feel like sooner or later you'll probably run into that battle, or maybe you already had the plateau moment when you were younger when you started playing. Do you think, or what do you think was the thing that sparked you to play now as opposed to then? Like, what was less entertaining about it then than it is now?
I think when I was younger, I kind of had a limit. I don't want to say like financial wise, but like things that were accessible to me. I feel I kind of had to do it all on my own. Didn't really know how to when I was younger.
Yeah.
But now I have like everything at the tip of my fingers now.
Oh yeah.
So like YouTube, I'm really horrible at YouTube videos though. Like I told you before, like watching somebody play, that's probably the easiest for me.
Yeah.
But I just feel like everything's more accessible now.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that. Like, to go along with that, we were talking a little bit about, a few weeks ago, you wanted a new guitar, and you had like a first act guitar. There's nothing against it. It works. You were done with it.
I'm done with it.
Yeah. So you were like, I've got this budget of X amount of dollars, and I'm willing to spend this on this thing that I want to do for a long time. And I said, maybe we see what's on the used market first, because believe it or not, there's a lot of really good used gear out there. And that's something that me being the guy that I am, that has been playing music for so long and has been able to see like what guitars are worth what and how well they last over time. I've spent so much time on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and Reverb and GuitarCenter.com and just scrounging around for all the gear and stuff. I said, let's just look for something online. And we did find an acoustic guitar for you online. Shout
out to Matt.
Yeah.
Whatever your last name is.
Yeah. It was way under your price range. And it was actually, I mean, we discussed it. It was like, just past a beginner's levels guitar, somewhere in the beginner to intermediate level, and it was inexpensive. It came with a case. It was hard to beat for the price and stuff.
It's beautiful and it sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
So you can't beat it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good point to make out. I would have never probably bought a used guitar had I not consulted somebody. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, so it doesn't always take but that's the thing you don't know when you're younger. It doesn't take all of the money in the world to buy this super expensive thing to be badass and awesome or whatever, Like,
start out in the trenches, that's what I got to do, so.
Yeah, and I mean, when I first started, it was the same way. I didn't buy a used piece of gear until, like my third amp I bought, and it was something like that, and I bought like an amp head that was used. It was the PV Triple X. Woody woo. It's actually sitting right over there. It's the silver faced one, but yeah, it's got like mud flap girls on it if you look at it really close. But it sounds really good. It was a nice amp. I used that for years and years and years and years. But it was a long time before I finally trusted the used market, and then when I finally got into it, it was like there's nobody out there that's gonna just rip you off, because you're gonna know who they are if they're on Facebook, and you're gonna meet them face to face, and you're gonna see this thing beforehand. And most people will, hey, I'll bring an amp with to show you what it sounds like to prove that it works and everything. And
Matt did that, so we actually met up at a hotel, and he brought an amp, and I was like, oh, you're like godsend.
That's cool. Yeah, and there's good sellers like that out there everywhere. I mean, I sold a pedal to a guy that I hadn't played in like a year and a half, and I said I sent it to him, and I sent him a message over Facebook, said I haven't tested it. If it doesn't work, just let me know. And apparently it didn't, so he sent it back, and I gave him his money back. So rock and roll. I mean, I've tested it, and it seems to work on my stuff, but I don't know if it was just an issue with his gear or what the deal was. But it's nicer to be honest. You kind of figure out that not everyone out there is kind of out to get you, even though like you think used guitar salesman sounds a lot like used car salesman.
Yeah, a little bit. But I was actually really nervous to meet up. I don't really know that scene, like the internet scene, so never met anybody to buy anything like that, so I was really nervous. I think I told you, like, oh shit, I'm doing this. Yep. So I don't know, but it went well.
Yeah, that's one of those things like we were talking about. You just kind of got to go out there and go out and do this thing. And if you're going out there and doing it, I don't know. It seems to be a common theme in the podcast. As long as you're out there doing this thing,
just do it.
You just got to kind of go do it. And it's like you got to dip your toes into the pool sometime eventually.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean it's crazy to think that in your infancy you've probably got a lot more knowledge than you think you do, though, because I mean, whether or not it be just bouncing some ideas off of me or I don't know if you have any other guitar playing friends at all.
I do.
So bounce some ideas off your other buddies and see what they've got to say about the whole idea.
I'm sure they'd have a lot to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm short on words. But it's also one of those things where sometimes it's nice to get other people's perspective, because a lot of this stuff is based on tastes and preferences and stuff like that.
I think a lot of that too is like as I grow, my confidence will build.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big part.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably figure out what your wheelhouse is exactly, you know. What kind of stuff do you like to play, or what are you kind of aiming to play, or let's go back to the beginning. What was the first song you learned on a guitar? Do you remember?
Oh shit. Knocking on Heaven's Door, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's not so bad.
Classic old, what song did you learn? That's it.
It's not a bad one. I mean, gosh, I don't know. Mine was probably Horse with No Name or Not Enough by Our Lady Peace, believe it or not. I learned how to play For Elise on the guitar as well. You know, just some like random songs where it was like, I wonder if this is a thing. And so, I mean, everybody's first song is always a weird one, but I'd call mine probably Horse with No Name, because it's like the easiest song in the world.
Knocking on Heaven. That's so easy.
Yeah.
At first it was not.
Yeah.
But you're like, why can't I play this? It's so easy.
Yep.
But you're like, oh yeah, it's because I'm new and I suck. But but no, I don't suck. I'm just new.
Just new.
But yeah, Knocking on Heaven's Door. I'm actually learning. You know what's hard?
What's that?
Tabs are hard.
Tabs are difficult to get used to at first.
Trying to learn the intro to Nothing Else Matters by Metallica.
Yeah. What's the most difficult thing about the tab?
I don't even know if it's reading the tabs. It's when your fingers are like a little inexperienced, trying to get different fingers on different frets on different strings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
definitely. When I first started reading tabs and things were going across strings more often than not, and I would have to like pick out like 3 of them and then find them on the guitar and do those 3 and then get used to doing that over and over again, and then
add a couple,
add a couple more and then do it again and just keep doing that over and over and over again until before you know it, you're playing like the whole intro to One by Metallica or something, you know, just it's like, oh crap, this isn't that bad.
I'm doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's I feel like that's the thing where some of it might be monotony that drives people wild when they first start learning the guitar. Some
like
people
the impatience.
Bingo. Like I talked to one guy about it, and it was kind of funny because he said it was pretty much who can do something and be bored with it and keep doing it the longest is kind of what music. And it's
that's true. Yeah.
It's like a short-minded way to look at it, because if you really think about it, it's just like learn a scale and now just like
and do it over and over and over.
Just do
again.
it forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, different song, different scale. Like just do it over and over. You know, here's you're going to play this jam song. It's one riff 400 times while like everybody solos, you know, it's like, does it get boring? Yeah, a little bit, but you can also add, like once you start to learn different things, you can add little bits here and there to spice it up.
Add your own stuff.
Exactly. To change it just a little bit to make it more entertaining for you, if nothing else. And I feel like that's the plateau that I had to get over, because I was
the monotony.
Yeah. Cause it was like, to me, it was like open chords or bar chords or power chords. And that was like all I had for knowledge. And I mean, even to somebody maybe in your area where you're just like, I have open chords and I'm learning power chords and I don't have any bar chords under my belt yet, you know? So it's like, you know, even to you where you're like, oh, that seems like a lot, but it's really, you know, you're closer to than you think to all of that.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the monotony is really on me. I think, everybody else gets more annoyed with the monotony when I'm playing around them.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
I mean,
I don't know. I just strive to learn. I need to learn. I need to learn all of it.
Well, bless your soul for at least just having an acoustic and not making a bunch of noise on an electric guitar, because that was pretty much all I did. Just crank the guitar up to a bunch and then just make as much noise as you could.
That's right. When I brought my guitar home, I took it out and I was showing the fam, and they're like, "Free bird!"
Oh gosh!
I just started playing nonsense notes as loud as I could, screaming "Free bird!" So.
Oh gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that's my performance.
You know, that's always one of the things where like you'll get tired of people yelling Freebird before you know it. But I remember Jeremy Ober talking on a podcast, or maybe it was might have been somebody else talking about Jeremy Ober, but they were mentioning how if somebody yells Freebird at them, occasionally they will bust it out.
Actually play it?
Just to, kind of show them what's up. Because nobody ever plays Freebird when they yell Freebird at them, but you never know. Brutal Republic might.
Yeah,
so
we're going to play Freebird.
Yeah, maybe that should be something you should learn when you just like next time your family's like Freebird and you're like,
put it in their face, yeah.
Check it out,
I can play it.
But I do also feel when you first start learning guitar that when you have no frame of reference as to how difficult things are, you can learn things that are like ludicrously difficult without even thinking too much about how difficult they are. Whereas sometimes when you have more of a frame of reference, you're like, whoa, this is a little out of my league here. It's kind of one of those deals if someone's like, hey, you're going to drive a car and you've never seen a car before and they're like, they point at a Ferrari and you get in it and drive it. That's just what you think it is.
Like all the cars.
Yeah, this is every car.
Like this is all the cars.
And then, but if it's like, hey, you've been driving like a Honda hatchback for 20 years, that's like certified used car.
Now get into a Ferrari.
Now you get into a Ferrari and you're like, I don't know if I want to even deal with this. Because even though you know how to do it, you could if you had to. It's still just kind of like, this is a little crazy, So I don't know. Some of that was like the intimidation factor held me back maybe. I feel like if you're tackling Metallica songs now, you're probably not too intimidated.
I don't know. Let's play my favorite songs right now. I'm on that kind of roll. Let's play my favorite songs.
Yeah, you find the ones you think are your favorite and you go try and learn them.
Yeah.
I definitely went through that with punk songs when I was growing up, with the Active Input days when I was a youngster. It was a lot of Newfound Glory and Sum 41 and there was
like Blink 182.
It's tons of fun. We never ended up playing any Blink songs, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, it was just a bunch of those kind of like punker songs like that. And on my free time, I would learn like Megadeth songs and things like that to help cut my chops, help like the strumming out and excuse me, that's that cold. But like, I would have to say that playing punk music definitely helped out quite a bit because you would get used to, especially with like Sum 41, you would do a lot of strumming patterns with palm muting and unpalm muting things and things like that. Maybe that's a little bit, like I said, past whatever you're doing at the moment.
Over my head a little bit.
But
it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing I couldn't, I guess, show you. But here's another thing. You're doing like pretty much all of this without any lessons from anybody.
Kind of doing it on my own.
Yeah.
And I really don't know how to gauge it. I've never taken lessons before besides in middle school for half an hour twice a week,
Yep.
So picking it back up now, kind of teaching myself. I don't know if it's harder or if it's easier. So I don't really know how to gauge it. Did you take lessons?
I never took guitar lessons.
You taught yourself?
I taught myself everything. I will have to say that I took one lesson from Josh Repty when I was growing up.
So there's hope.
Yeah, I guess.
You're saying there's hope.
Josh had a guitar shop in Humboldt for a while, and I took a lesson with him. But other than that, I never really took lessons. I felt like everything that was teachable was easily accessible on the internet by the time I wanted to learn it. When I first started playing guitar, there was like almost nothing on YouTube. You'd have to go to like people's websites and they'd have like videos on their website where it's just like, Joe Schmo's guitarlessons.com and you'd go there and it'd be some goofy looking dude in a hat, and he'd just be all dadded out. They might as well have like New Balance shoes on and stuff too. But he was
the white ones with the Velcro.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's right.
But he was just like, this is how you play a blues lick, kids. And, you click on the link on the side and like lesson number 2. And they're like, oh, okay.
So I don't even know how really helpful that is.
That was the difficult part because it was just like, how do I piece all this together? Because you don't know if what the person's teaching you is like, I guess like the correct thing to learn and like what is correct or how correct is the correct thing. But not everything has to be, I guess once you delve into that improv world, not everything has to be so cut and dry all the time.
And that's hard too, because as a beginner, like everybody does things differently.
Yes.
There are so many different ways and you don't know.
Yep.
You don't know.
Yep. Play a G this way or this way, or use these fingers or those fingers or...
Actually, I think I played a G in front of you and used them on my pinky, and you're like,
Yeah.
Here, try this.
Yeah, the issue with that, if we can help everybody understand, that was you were having fret buzz while you were playing some chords. Mm-hmm. And I think the issue was that your fingers, like weren't close enough to the frets, and B, you were using your smaller 3 fingers to play a G chord. You were using your pinky, your ring finger, and your middle finger, which is cool. There's a lot of people that do that because it leaves your pointer finger open to do fancier stuff if you want to do like a walk down or a walk up from the G, so there's reasons why people do that, but for the beginner sense,
definitely not easier.
Use the stronger fingers. Other people have super big fingers, so they want to use the smaller ones because they get in the way, but you can learn it both ways. I always just said if you're having difficulty doing one thing, just learn to skin the cat another way. But you've always got to keep the other idea in your back pocket because there's a reason that somebody's doing things that way. Right. So like another one would be an E chord, where a lot of people use these 2 fingers and their pointer finger, and some people will use so here for everybody listening, some people will use their middle 2 finger with their pointer finger, and other people will use the ring and pinky finger and then use the middle finger to play what would be I think it'd be the third of the, but yeah. So they'll do that instead, but that like helps them travel up the neck to play bar chords easier. So there's like different reasons people do different things, but nobody ever really explains any of these things in a video. They're just like, this is how I do it, so do it this way. Or you just, like you said, if you're watching people on YouTube do it, you're just recreating what they're doing without understanding why their fingers are in a certain way. You
kind of have to get to the bottom of everything, and that's like learning by yourself. I don't know if it's more conducive to your guitar playing or if it's a hindrance. So
yeah, gosh, and that's such a tough thing because you definitely learn what you want to learn, but you also kind of get yourself stuck in a hole sometimes.
I know.
Or leave yourself kind of high and dry without understanding what to do in a certain situation. Like, let's put it this way, like when you want to learn tabs and sometimes like the solo on the tabs is just not quite right, and it's not because you're recreating it perfectly and it's just like, this doesn't sound right, so I would like to fudge my own one in here. But if you don't know like what key things are in or what scale to hit, you're just kind of like, I don't know, but I know how to play pentatonic scales and like, can that fit in here? It does somehow, but I don't know how because nobody ever taught me how. It's just stuff like that where
you are stuck.
Yeah,
you're stuck.
You're kind of, without trying to recreate it multiple times. I don't know. That was one thing that got me like, when I first started playing, it was like, I wish I had somebody else sitting next to me playing stuff so I could play with them or whatever, or play along to something that had more timing with it so I could like keep my time better. So I was trying to like find something that would help me, and I ended up finding a looper pedal, which I've got one sitting over here, but what that would do is I would just like play a set of chords and then I would just loop them over and over again. Then you just practice your chords by playing along to something that will never ever change, as long as you can play it the first time on the looper perfectly.
Decently, yeah.
Yeah. So then that got me started to be like, what if I wanted to solo over these chords? And then I didn't have to have one of my buddies come over here and play guitar and embarrass myself in front of him trying to figure out
while you're trying to solo.
Yeah, figure out what I'm doing, or like go on YouTube and look up a jam track and listen to it 98,000 times and stuff. It was like, what if, let's try and figure this out from the ground up where I'm at, because like what chords sound good together first, and then what key is that in, and where can it go from? But in order to get to all of that, you've got to have some sort of base of knowledge.
Yeah. So a lot of it is just like take it and run with it.
Yeah, totally.
That's where I'm at.
I mean, if you ever need anything, there probably, I would say about a half a dozen people in the area-ish that would be willing to give lessons. Not that that's a necessity for you, because I'm sure you've got plenty of people to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm stuck. I want lessons, but at the same time, like, wouldn't it be a great feat to say, I did this on my own?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But I'm definitely, I don't lack humility, so I always ask for help. So there's no shame in, I would say, getting lessons like that. But
oh, yeah.
I think at a point in time, I'm just like, let's hammer this out on my own.
Uh-huh. I think one of the benefits I had growing up was I took a music theory class in high school that they offered, that I'm not sure they offered it when you were there, but it was a college level like entry music theory class, and it was just enough to spark my interest and figure out that like you got major and minor progressions for scales are different. You know, your whole, half, whole, half, and then your whole, half, whole, half, whole for your major and minor. Yeah, it's just like how many steps you're taking, all that kind of stuff. And then I started figuring out, like, from there, I was like, wonder what modes are, and somebody explained modes to me on the internet, and I had to watch like 5 or 6 videos before I finally found somebody that explained it in a fashion that I could understand, and it worked out really well. I liked it. But it's still one of those things, like you said, you got to hunt down so many videos before somebody finally says something in the fashion.
You're like, it clicks.
That clicks, actually, you know. And it's weird that you can go to like 4 or 5 videos where people who are explaining modes to you are explaining them to you in the actual way you should be learning them. But then somebody comes along and they're like, here's an easy trick to learning modes, and you're just like, oh, son of a gun, I didn't realize it was that easy.
Doing it this whole time.
Yeah, and you can just like cheat your way into knowing the thing without actually having to know the thing. And that's one of the things I feel like there's a lot of guitar people like don't actually know what they're doing, but they're like really good at doing what they're doing. Because it's a lot of it's just once you figure out patterns and shapes, you can just use whatever patterns and shapes you want to, given whatever chords are being played around you. Which comes back to there's not really any specific set of rules, but there are some rules. So
I think there's a couple rules.
There's some that you should definitely follow. But you know, as far as having like, I had Alejandro Trevino on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he's one of those guys that does not always follow the rules of music, but he knows how to not follow them and make it still sound good. And, you know, kudos to him. Oh, speaking of guitar lessons, I did just see that he posted that he's going to be giving some lessons. If anybody wants to give Alejandro Trevino, hit him up. I should double check to see what podcast episode he was, but then you can get his info from that. Let's see here. If you're listening to the podcast now, this is episode number 40, and Alejandro is on episode number 37. So if you cruise down to that, in the description, you'll find a way to contact him. But yeah, he did just start his own lesson thing kind of going, and he would be a good person to hit up. As a matter of fact, I might even hit him up just for grins and giggles. It'd be nice to pick his brain for some knowledge.
That'd be fun.
And you know, that's the thing though. Like, as much as I say I've never taken lessons, you're kind of always in
lesson mode.
Yeah, you're always learning from people. I mean,
I guess you're right. Whether it's a physical person right there in front of you, or it's a YouTube video or something on the internet, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you are always taking lessons unless you're literally not talking to anybody or watching anything, or so.
Yeah, I had the benefit of Dan Blair would come over and play guitar with me quite a bit, and I did a podcast with him. I think it's episode number 2. If I could scroll all the way down to the bottom of the list here, but I'm pretty sure that was episode number 2. But the two of us actually sat down and did a lot of guitar playing together, and he and I were kind of on the same level where we were kind of embarrassed. Maybe not so much embarrassed on his part, but I was kind of just like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, and I needed somebody to help me out. So Debo would come over and we'd pick each other's brains for different things we learned online. And every week we'd come back with some new stuff that we'd learned, and he'd learn something different than what I would learn. So we would kind of just like learn off of what each other were doing, or like I'd be playing something, I'd hear him, you know, I'll be playing some stuff. He'd be soloing. I'd be like, wow, what was that thing you were playing? He'd be like, oh, it's this. And it's like, oh, sweet. So you're always kind of picking each other's brains for things, you know, nonstop. And after, him and I started playing and got good enough, I was eventually like, I'm going to join up with a band. So I joined up with Three Finger Betty, and that was another situation where it was like, time to apply all this stuff, you know, like they just pretty much sent me the audio for songs, and we're just like, learn it. And it's not like Three Finger Betty's like ridiculously difficult stuff, but there's some stuff in there I still had to ask him about because I was still pretty green. But it was nice to figure out like, oh, this song is in this key, which means that these are probably going to be the chords that they use. And
have a little bit of an idea of what you're actually doing.
Yep. Yeah. So you get like kind of that figured out. It was kind of nice because, I mean, even then I was kind of bouncing the ideas off of a bassist that was living in town. He still does live in town. His name's Tom Hannerhan. I've been trying to get him to play more bass lately, but he was around at that time, and we were kind of playing together and playing some of the Betty songs together, and it was just kind of neat to get to figure out where somebody else was taking music, because that's John Wah's baby. John Wah pretty much writes all the guitar stuff for Three Finger Betty, and I did a podcast with John Wah. That's episode 15. But it was kind of nice to get in there and be like, oh, this is how John writes music, and these are the chords he likes to use. These are the soloing kind of styles that he does or whatever. And then, how can I add anything to that on top of that or whatever? So I started adding my own little flair to it with little fills and stuff like that and whatever. But, it's always, you're always in lesson mode. I ended up joining up with Unity after a while because I had gotten my chops up quite a bit. But even then it was just like, I don't know if I'm good enough to join a metal band, and Sean Oakes, I did a podcast with him, episode 10. He was just like, dude, you got this. You just put your nose to the grindstone and you got this. So he sent me a bunch of files, and it was crazy to sit down and be like, I got to play this many notes. Like, I don't think I can play this many notes, and it was from the point where, like, in about a 2-month time span, I went from not being able to play any of it to being able to play all of it. But I spent so much time, just grinding away at it. But it was also another thing where you got to see, like, oh, this song is in this key and all the solo stuff's in this key. So there's occasions where the two of us, when we would practice together, initially we would like miss a couple fills on a couple things, and where we'd always be in the right key, but we'd be hitting the wrong notes. So it wouldn't always sound as harmonious as it should. So, it was nice to be in the right key, but it was also kind of like, we need to, a lot of that was on my fault because I was the new guy. So I'll definitely take the blame for that, because it's not like I'm going to blame the guy that's been in the band for a while. He messed it up, not me. No, it was my fault.
Not the new guy.
Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy because it's like you said, you kind of always got to be in learning mode. Like if you're going to bounce an idea off somebody, or if you're going to watch somebody else play and kind of see the chords that they're using, or it's like, is this band only using power chords, or like are they using something a little bit more finesse based, and can I recreate this like in simplicity at my own house or not? One of the things that when I originally started, I started playing open chords on everything. Before I learned like power chords and punk music and metal music and things like that, it's all open chords. I played at a church, and all that was on an overhead projector behind you. There was the words that you were singing, and then above them there were the letters where the chord would change, and you had to just kind of turn around and do it on the fly.
And to see what you're playing?
Yeah, so you didn't really, like, I knew how some of the songs went, but it wasn't like, there was no 1, 2, 3, 4, like your typical music bars up there. You just sang the words, and then when you got to the word...
To the word, where the letters above it, then you're switching.
And then you switched. And so you'd have to kind of just know...
It's kind of funny that you say that, though, like, on the internet.
Yeah.
That's where I'm, like, learning my songs, is that format.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, like, the thing where I feel like that was so beneficial to me when I first started learning that, whereas I didn't have the ability... Like, imagine if I'm standing on the left side of the stage, and the projector screen's behind me to my right, and my guitar neck is pointed to my left. And if I'm going to turn around to kind of see what chords are being played... I can't see my guitar neck. So I had to get so good at playing the guitar that I didn't have to look at my neck. And so you had to get to this situation where it's like a D chord is going to be here, and a G is here, and a D, and then maybe this is a C, or maybe we'll hit an A or an E minor or something. Like whatever they're going to be, you just knew where they were going to be, so you just had to turn around and look and do it when the letter changed, and then your hands just did what they did. So it took me a while to get to that point.
To the not looking?
Yeah, but once I got that down pat, sight reading music is pretty much just go for it. If I've heard the song once or twice and we have the chords with lyrics, I can kind of do most anything just on the fly. And as long as I guess the chords aren't super crazy and they don't change too fast in a song.
I still have to look.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have to look. But I remember we had a conversation earlier and you're like, play in the dark.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, play in the dark.
Yeah.
Close your eyes, play in the dark. You'll learn.
Yeah. I mean, your ear knows what's not a G chord.
Yeah,
it's not going to sound right.
Yeah.
If you are a fret too high on everything, or like a set of strings down or something, you'll know. So that's like the benefit, is you keep yourself honest, and you're actually kind of ear training yourself to play the right stuff anyways.
And I did play in the dark. I do play in the dark.
Yeah.
It helps a lot.
It does.
It helps a lot.
It does. And it sucks to just be like play an E and then play an A and then just switch between the two in the dark 900 times until it's so easy that you'll never mess it up again.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you just throw another one. Go E, A, D, E, A, D, and then go D, E, A, and then go D, A, E, and just like switch up the order, like, and just keep doing them over and over and over and over and over and over again until you just won't mess those up. And you just keep doing it from one chord to the next. And I feel like that's the biggest issue, where a lot of kids that I've done lessons with, they will learn a new chord, but it's so foreign to switch from chords they know to this new one that they kind of get downtrodden. A big one would be the F chord, whether or not they're trying to learn like the big bar F or the little short stubby F that doesn't bar everything off. But it's kind of tough because you just got to be like, just play this F chord, play the chord that it switches from to the F, and then from the F away from the F. So if it's like I don't know, you could play like an F, a G, and a C. Or like if it's G, F, C, so you play like a G, and then you would play an F directly afterward, and then you would play a C, and then you just go back to the G, F, C, G, F, C, and you just play it over and over and over again. So now your fingers know that when you play this G, this is how easy it is to go to an F. But before, your fingers didn't know that. They knew where the F was, they knew where the G was, but they didn't know how to travel between the two.
I'm kind of stuck on the traveling part too, actually.
Well, you think about it this way, like, you know where Omaha is at, right? But you don't know how to get there without a GPS. And you got to kind of have this GPS or a map, or at least have looked at it, or have, so you got to have some exposure to it before you can actually travel between the two. Or let's just pick another place, like Tampa, like you could get to Tampa maybe, but like, are you going to take the best, straightest route possible? Probably not, unless you look it up and practice first, So that's just one of those things that practicing does get a little monotonous at times, especially when you're practicing the same handful of chords over and over again with no means to an end. But that's, I guess, also the beneficial part, where if you can just toss in a song you like that you want to play.
That's right.
And you can kind of just, relieve yourself of the boredom of just playing random chords for no reason at all.
Yeah, I got to that point the other day, switching between Nothing Else Matters and Knocking on Heaven's Door. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. We're switching to Strawberry Wine, good old country song.
Never heard it.
Okay,
I'm
Peter.
bad at music.
Okay, Peter.
I don't know. Sorry.
Do you even music?
I don't know how to music.
But putting that country feel into it, it was kind of a breath of fresh air. And I kind of found that country songs are a little bit easier to learn when they're slower paced. And you don't have to be so quick about everything.
Yeah, fast-paced country, or like country and western, or like old-style country, where there's a lot of like a boom-da-da, boom-da-da, boom-da-da. It's like not as easy as you think. I did lessons with an older lady, and believe it or not, she's like, this is the stuff I want to learn. It's like, let's do it. She wanted to do some jam nights down in like the Texas area. And we did a bunch of lessons and got her chops up, and she went down there for the winter and did a couple jam night thingies with some people. So it's kind of cool to actually see the people put the work in and go do
progress.
And she was like, I don't know, easily the oldest student I'd ever had, and it just goes to show you're never too old to learn something. 'Cause she'd never played a guitar before, didn't know anything about it.
Started out.
Yeah,
She's I'm gonna do this,
but a lot of it was like you. She spent so much time on her own learning this stuff that like by the time she got to a lesson, it was pretty much just me reviewing the stuff I told her to do the previous week, and it was like, well, let's pick a new song because you got this one down, and then before you know it, she knows 7 or 8 songs, and
God, that's so fun.
And from that, she now has the ability to go look up any other song she wants to with the chord changes and play it as long as she's heard it before, But she also had like a buddy that would bounce the ideas off her, where it's like, this is how they play it, and most of the time you'll find it. But if we would play it in this key because it's easier, and it's like, oh, like that's something that might be kind of easy for him to do, or for her friend or whoever. But she might not know how to switch keys on things.
Yeah.
So, but she also did have like, there's all sorts of apps out there. Like there was one app that if you put the chords and lyrics into something, you could import the lyrics and you would put the chords above the words. And then you would tell it what key it was in. And if you uploaded audio with it, you could upload a song with it, and it would play along with it. And you could just like hear the song and play along with it and have all the stuff right there with you in this app on her iPad. But like, let's say you wanted to put a different one, like, oh, Merle Haggard does this in G, but so-and-so does it in A. So you upload the version with A. You upload the version, it's in the key of A in there, and then all you have to do is just go on and click this thing and say, we switch to the key of A, and it switches all the chords for you automatically, and it's...
Transpose everything?
It's pretty nice. Oh. So, I mean, there's all sorts of apps and crazy stuff out there that
There's everything.
But I guess, without the knowledge of how to apply that's kind of tough. But we were talking lyrics and chords, and that's pretty much what I used for the Arts Council building show that I did, because I don't have the the mental capacity to learn 36 songs in like 2 months and then memorize all of them and then show up and play them. So I I mean, I could, I guess, but not during finals week while doing podcasts and everything. So
I'm kidding.
Yeah, could give me some crap. Oh, somebody out there's making noise. But yeah, so like what I did was I brought a lot of sheet music with me to kind of supplement what I needed to do. But I mean, you can see that like, I don't know, like here's Take It Easy by the Eagles was one of the songs I played. It's not very hard. I'm sure you've heard the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see that there's not like a ludicrously crazy amount of weird chords in there and how maybe not necessarily difficult that would be.
I could play this song.
Yeah, so this is something I wanted to show you. I just pulled out all my giant stack of music that I played. So there's that one. Here's The Joker by Steve Miller Band. I'm sure you've heard that.
Who hasn't heard that?
Yeah, well, there's probably somebody out there that hasn't.
You're right, I'm sorry.
But there's another one. How difficult does that song look to play?
I could play this song.
Yeah, and you know, in its bare bones entirety, I guarantee you could. Like
play it.
So like let's see, here's Can't You See by Marshall Tucker Band. I'm sure you've heard that one. Think you could play that one?
Oh yeah.
So like this is probably one of my favorite things about guitar is when you start to actually like
this is
yeah, you didn't know there were this many songs you could actually go like here's a Man Who Just Couldn't Cry, or The Man Who Couldn't Cry. It was originally written by Loudon Wainwright, but Johnny Cash made it popular, and I actually sang that song at the Arts Council building. If you have never heard it before, I recommend looking it up. It's a pretty fun song with a really comical lyric set. But yeah, luckily when I played it was when the building was the most full and people were paying the least amount of attention, so it actually went over pretty well. But I actually played an acoustic version of Times Like These by the Foo Fighters, which was not super difficult.
See, look at this. What?
Yeah, so she's pointing at the tablature that
like
shows how to play the main riff. And that's literally just a D chord, and then you pick up your pointer finger and put it down. So it's really not that hard.
I guess I need to take some lessons on how to read some tabs.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I could bounce a couple easier ones off of you.
I thought the internet did me right.
There's Ramblin' Man by Allman Brothers. It's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, that's a little quick.
Yeah, there's a few quick chord changes in that one that the first time I played it kind of threw me off. Old Man by Neil Young, which has some difficult parts in that one, but other than that, it's pretty easy. I played that one for sure.
These are fun. Like looking at these, probably a couple of months ago, I would have looked at these and it would have been so foreign. And now it's like learning how to read, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like playing guitar, like is learning how to read, right?
Yeah, that's literally all you're doing is learning a different language.
Yeah,
and the only way to speak it is not with your vocal cords, but with this doohickey that's wood and metal strapped together.
It's amazing. Like
it's pretty wild.
I'm probably like a kindergartner reader right now.
All right, Whiskey in the Jar by Thin Lizzy. That also made popular by Metallica. Before that, I think the Dubliners did a version of it, but there's also that song is also super old and been done by about a bazillion people. That's another one that's pretty easy to play for the most part.
That would be fun. Can I borrow this?
You can literally borrow any of these if you want. Here's For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield. You might not know it by title, which not everybody does, but once you read the lyrics, I'm sure you will. Stop. What's that sound?
Everybody going down.
You got it.
Okay.
So, I Saw Red by Warrant. That's a pretty awesome Warrant song
really
that I played.
That song too.
It's a lesser popular one that most people don't know, but it's actually a really awesome Warrant song, which is I absolutely love the fact that this song is pretty much mostly acoustic and it's a fun song to play. But
I Saw Red?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to like pick something from every genre too. So it was like here's like something from the 80s and here's something from the 60s and here's something from the folk area and here's
something just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a Foo Fighters acoustic song in there that I picked out for somebody. I did like Love Song by Tesla so I could get a little finger plucking in there. I mean,
options are endless.
I didn't throw this one in there, but I have thrown this one at a couple people who wanted to learn for guitar lessons.
Tenacious D.
Yep. So Tribute would be the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another one that, other than an F chord, I'm sure most people could probably actually play that song, whether or not they think they can. And
it's if you want to sing the words to it.
Yeah, so if there's any beginners out there that want to learn some songs, we've definitely named a handful that would be well worth your time to just at least peek into, because they're super easy. And all you can,
yeah, do it.
And all you need to look up for, like, so let's say you want to look up what we're talking about. It's For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield. Like, just look up For What It's Worth chords and lyrics on Google, and you'll find links to pretty much anything you need. Most of them will be pretty correct. You might need to fish around for a few to find the ones that are correct, because everybody thinks that, everybody thinks their way of playing it is the correct way, and all I have to say to you is find the one that you think is the most correct and go ahead and play it. Here's another one you probably know that's way easier than you think.
I love this song.
And the song is, for all the people that can't see it,
Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd.
It's a good one.
So good.
It's a good one.
Classic.
So the fun part about that one is learning the little intro part. That's it's not written on there, but you can learn the little intro part pretty easily, actually, because it's mostly just open chord diddling. But here's another one that's not too hard. I did play that one as well at the not the Rockin' Picnic, at the Humboldt Arts Festival. That was the Wine Walk, the Sip and Stroll, which actually that place was packed. I don't think I've ever sweated so much playing music in front of people. I was just so nervous. I don't know why, but it's just what it is.
It's all right. I'm nervous all the time. Like, even if I get super, super great, I really don't know if I'll be able to play in front of people. Stage fright thing.
But the other end of that is you don't always have to. I was talking with Gene Walker, and he was like, there's guys that just come out to jam nights, and they play at jam nights and then go home, and they never play in front of people at all.
Like any other time.
They don't join a band, they don't go out on the weekends to play, and they just show up, play a couple songs, and then leave, because that's all they want to do. I
think that would be really fun too. But a lot of it is, and that's the thing for me, I don't know if I really want to perform, but I want to do this for me, right?
Yeah. Sorry if everybody heard me blowing my nose.
Get me sick.
Got a little cold. So, but thanks for braving coming over here and sitting across the table with me.
Breathing your air.
No, man.
We're good.
But yeah, this is actually let's see how much we've got recorded into this so far.
Probably a decent amount.
Yeah, we're almost at an hour already. Jeez. So this is kind of just wanted to touch base with you and see what you think about guitar and just make sure that, as you do this on your own time, and kind of just want to make sure you still have fun with it, because that's one of the things I feel is the most difficult, I guess, for people first starting out, is just continuing to have fun doing what they're doing, because it starts out and it's fun, that's why everybody does most anything.
I think it's going to be always fun.
You think so?
I do.
Let me ask you this then.
All right.
Why was there a pause then in between then and now when you were playing? We did discuss this a little bit with the financial situation.
I think also because life happened and I had to put some things on hold,
That's definitely what happened to me, for sure. It just certain things take priority over others. And
that's right.
You just don't necessarily feel like putting the time into. Well, sometimes it comes down to necessity. It's
And then when things slow down, you really have time to kind of sort out what you want to do and what makes you happy, and you pick it up again.
Yeah, I've got so many irons in the fire right now. It was almost like being sick is a blessing and a curse, because you're just I get to sleep for once. I get to sleep for more than
do nothing. 6
hours in a day, and oh man, but it's also kind of sucks because you sleep for 14 hours in a day, and you're I didn't do anything.
You gotta have a happy medium in there.
Yeah, it's tough. I haven't seen the Three Finger Betty guys. It seems like in weeks. I had to not go down for practice this weekend. All I gotta say is I hate being sick, and obviously someone got me sick, so I don't want to get anybody else sick, and unfortunately it happens sometimes. But I'm not gonna go to work and slobber all over keyboards and mice and pass documents from desk to desk and be like, here's this snotty whatever, and they're gonna be like, thanks, we'll get that out right away.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna do any of that stuff, and I hope they appreciate the fact that I stayed clear, because I don't really know if anybody wants to deal with whatever I'm dealing with.
Yeah,
I also know I don't.
Nobody at all.
No, I don't like taking cold medicine either.
But I see your Alka-Seltzer cold and flu right there.
Yeah, you can see it right here, but I had to. I guess I had to finally cave in and do it. But I'm still only taking half the recommended dosage because I'm... Yeah, because I'm a hard ass. No, I don't know. Because I'm stupid, I guess, maybe. I'd rather suffer instead of... No. But I just want to say thanks again for swinging on the podcast.
Yeah.
I know it's probably a very... pressure-filled situation when you first sat down thinking about how I've done 39 of these with about 35 plus musicians, some of which
they're all great.
Some of which are in like the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, some of which like went to school specifically for music. Some people are lesson people, some people like make instruments, like Kirk Bricker. I was thinking about him the other day. Oh man, I got to get my hands on one of his cigar box guitars. Those things look so fun. It was so cool to have him come over and play some guitar for me with, something I had no realm of understanding about, until he explained it all to me. And even then it was like, still something new,
Well, that's all right. I'm not going to hang my head, with my famous predecessors. I'll hold my head up high.
No, this is a great thing. And, it's a jog down memory lane for me, and I'm sure other people as well, because, the way that you started playing guitar is not the same as, exactly the same as mine or as anybody else's, but there's parallels, like the way I learned was I would go and look up tabs if they had them online, but there was almost never like tabs with recordings to listen to, or like pro tabs or anything like that. There was no YouTubes and things like that, especially. But my predecessors growing up to learn stuff, they would throw an LP on, find the song they wanted, pan everything to the left speaker, and then they were like, that's Angus Young's sound, and then they pan it all to the right speaker and be like, that's Malcolm Young, and you would have to recreate what was on the speaker just by hearing it. And that's
insane. Mm-hmm. That's insanity.
And that's where a lot of people, you had to be able to be like, all right, he plays this chord, and this chord, which means it's in this key, which means that all the other chords you're probably going to use are going to be these ones, so you can figure out where to go from there. And way more knowledgeable about the patterns and picking stuff up on the fly than the kids of today, I would have to say.
Kind of jealous of that in a sense.
Yeah. They had to work for it. The people that are older that play music are definitely the people that are more well-versed, I would definitely have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might not always be the shredders or the flashy people out there with like smoke machines and lights and stuff, but they know what they're doing.
I mean, they do know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's humbling to sit down next to them and just be like, you're so good at this. And they're just like, meh. Like, they just like almost don't care how good they are. It's pretty wild. It's really humbling for sure. Because, I would have to say almost every single person I've interviewed more talented than me, and it's maybe not outright, but they know how to do stuff I don't know how to do.
Me too.
And it blows me, and it blows me away. Like, even if I can do some of the stuff that they can do, it still comes down to every person. You're always in learning mode. We talked about this.
Always
like
in
you sit down and every time you're at a show, it's like, this guy's doing stuff I've never done.
Yep.
They're playing things I've never played. They're putting chords together I've never done or heard or tried before. They're playing beats I've never, whatever it happens to be, they're doing it. And everything's a different beast. Like you were talking about playing country music. It's different. Like,
it's different.
Yeah. Like, ska music, totally different. Metal is different than just playing open chords and singing. It's all different.
I don't think there is ever a lack of things to learn.
No. Oh man. Once you start peeling the onion back, you start to realize how deep everything is too, where you're just like, oh man, I just like, ska is always one that I always turn back to. I got the basics of ska down, but if you wanted me to play a ska set with a ska band, oh my gosh, I would struggle bust that so hard.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of learning and a lot of gear changing in my own brain to try to figure out what's going on all the time, as opposed to just playing what somebody told me to play when they told me to play it.
Learning mode.
Yeah, yep. And nobody ever stops learning, no matter what you're doing. You get a new job, you're always learning. Like everything you do, you're always learning. One of these kids I give lessons to was kind of like, I don't get how some people can just be so good at everything, and I was like, well, some people, like the older people, just seem to be like, I just did some plumbing today, and then I'm doing some electrical work, and then it's like, how do you know how to do all this stuff? Well, I just went out and did it,
I just did it.
Yeah, you just got to go figure it out, and trial and error.
That's right. Nobody got good overnight.
No. Oh God, no.
And that's the thing. I'm struggling with it too. You're not going to learn overnight.
No, but there are those sweet spots that you hit when you first start playing that you're like, I like this. Like even if you start to play it, nothing else matters. If like you just play that, every time you pick up the guitar, the first time you pick it up for a year, it's like, this is the thing that makes me happy.
I love it too.
I was talking about that with Gene Walker when I first started picking up the guitar. It was just like, I'm going to pick this thing up and E power chord, and distortion and loud. Just
do it. It makes me feel good.
Yeah. It just makes me feel good, And that's one of those things that I think every single one of us, when we pick up the guitar, there's that one thing that we can do that's just like, this just puts me in a good mood, makes me feel all right. And I'm glad I'm doing it.
All right. Yeah.
So yeah, this is we've covered almost an hour. I'm sure with an intro and an outro, I can probably fill an hour. So I want to say thanks again for sitting down and joining me. Yeah, I can definitely send you some links to that music or let you borrow it and copy it. I'm sure you've got a copy or whatever. So
pretty sure that's where I'm going to.
What, just doing the chords and lyrics?
Yeah,
and
that's what I find.
Well, the crazy thing is you can just listen to the radio after a while and be like, this doesn't sound like they're playing 400,000 chords and just shredding the crap out of it. I could probably
play this.
And then you just start to figure out, like, I'm going to bookmark this in my head. And then when you get to somewhere where you're at, you Google the song with chords and lyrics. You're like, I could totally play this thing. Like that was one where it was like, we had talked about this back in the day with Joe Satriani, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that was a song that... is it easy to play? No way. But the basic chords to play it are pretty easy. So you can actually kind of dumb the song down and play it. And I did, and it works. It sounds okay. So yeah, it's definitely doable, even with some difficult songs, because they got to use bass chords to make everything sound the way it does anyways. But that's just what it comes down to. I'm kind of glad that, we had this little talk, and you I feel like you're on the up and up, even if you're just learning on your own and doing it all yourself.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You like what you're doing.
Yeah. Like we said about learning mode, mm-hmm. It's fortunate that you get to learn at something that you're very passionate about. Like, I think that's the most exciting for me.
Yeah, totally.
So,
but I also feel like, not to downgrade that even a little bit, but you should also learn about things you don't like.
Like what?
Literally anything. You should open yourself up to both sides of the coin. So, like, I don't know. Not that I don't like it, but I'm not good at playing guitar, or not good at playing the drums, and I always wanted to, so I bought a drum set, and I've been kind of learning, but I still need to learn more, and that's something that, because I'm not good at it, I just kind of avoid it. And
it's kind of how I felt about art. Like, I suck at art, but I'm doing it.
Visual art, or auditory art?
No, visual art.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's no other way to get better than to try.
You just got to do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I feel like that is like half the battle, is like just literally doing anything, and then...
Like, it doesn't matter if you're shitty.
Yeah, because everyone's going to be shitty the first time they do it.
You got to do it for one time. You got to do it first.
Yeah, and if nothing else, you get a story, and then everybody's going to have their... Everybody that succeeds has got a story, and you don't have to succeed to have a story either, but you're going to end up with one, and that's what you're going to... Maybe you just got to learn and go out and try stuff and figure it out, and have fun doing it if you can, because that's like half... I guess it's the battle is just enjoying it, and I feel like you've got your head screwed on straight in that fashion, so that's a good deal.
Yeah.
All right, so let's end this thing, and I'll slap an intro and outro on it, and we'll get this thing posted on Thursday. So thanks, Hannah. I appreciate you joining me. All right, I want to say thanks to our guest, Hannah, for joining us on the podcast. It's not an easy thing to come out on a podcast that's made for musicians and such, and to be a beginner and then jump in on all that stuff. So huge shout out to Hannah for doing that, letting us all know some of the things she's struggling with playing guitar. And, if anybody wants to contact her, I will put her links down below if she allows me to. I'm going to have to ask her first. But, if there's any links down below, go ahead and give her a wave, poke her on Facebook or whatever. Do people still poke people on Facebook? I'm not sure if that's a thing anymore. But you can go ahead and tell her hi, tell her you liked listening to her on the podcast. Give her the thumbs up. all the good stuff, because that's what we're all about here, is supporting everybody, doing all the good stuff. Speaking of supporting people, you can go to www.audiblefarm.com and you can find links to everywhere you can listen to us. I mean, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Spotify, TuneIn. You can tell your Alexa to play the Audible Farm podcast app, and it will. That's pretty wild stuff. You can find us pretty much anywhere. At www.audiblefarm.com, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. There's links to all that stuff there, as well as a nice little email form, so you can email me and let me know if you want to try and hop on the podcast. We can make our schedules work out, especially if I'm not feeling under the weather like I am this week. It was kind of a difficult week laying around on the couch. I know it sounds glorious from the outsider's perspective, but it's not as awesome when you're the one that's kind of stuck on a couch. So glad I didn't get anyone else sick, or at least that I know of, maybe. So unless it's maybe Hannah, who for sitting across the table from me, we're doing a podcast. So I hope Hannah doesn't get fatally ill like I almost felt like I was. But anyways, you can go to the audiblefarm.com and fill out that form there and send us an email, and we'll get in contact with you, and maybe we can do a podcast. I'd love to. It'd be awesome. I want to say thanks to the Iowa Podcast Network for doing all the work they're doing for me and all the other podcasters in Iowa. I love what they're doing for us. As a matter of fact, the website that we have, if you go to www.audiblefarm.com, the Iowa Podcast Network set that up. So a huge tip of the cap to Michelle for doing that. Thanks, Michelle. You can see her in a podcast I did with her a while back, and find links to her podcast as well. It's super funny. You should check it out. Leave us a review if you're listening on iTunes, and if you're not listening on iTunes, I bet you could probably still leave us a review if you wanted to. Otherwise, you can just go to Facebook and leave us a review. It just helps me kind of gauge what I'm doing here, and it kind of helps the algorithms out a little bit too. So if you do that, I appreciate it. If not, just thanks for listening. I want to say thanks to Hannah for joining me on the podcast once again. It was a great time sitting down talking with her. Hope I didn't get her sick. I didn't cough directly into her face while we were interviewing, so I think we should be good, but we'll see. So I want to say thanks again to everybody that listened. And I also want to say that next week you can find another awesome episode of the Audible Farm podcast. So we'll check you next week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in this week. Peace.